Sooner Nation, Thunder Nation, we are back. This is the Just Okay Sports podcast. That is just Oklahoma sports, and it's just okay at best. So that's what we do here. We are going to talk Oklahoma Sooners, and we're going to talk Thunder basketball because that's what we do here in Oklahoma. My name's Daryl, and I'm here tonight with my brother Jared, aka J Rod. How are you, brother?
I'm all right, I guess. Sports has sucked,
Yeah,
so we're talking about that. But yeah, I guess it's been a wild way as I've had. So I work in IT for some, maybe your listeners know that. It's been one of those weeks that like when you work in IT, you just run into every now and then. So it's kind of sucked from that perspective, and it was like it had to come off last weekend, uh,
right.
sports wise. So um, yeah, maybe I'm the problem. Maybe I'm the curse. I don't know. Maybe it's yeah,
Well,
I don't know.
it's everywhere. So I mean, let's just Oklahoma State sucks. OU sucks. Chet snapping his freaking hip bone sucks. Jay Will out. I mean, like, dude, it's just rough. I mean, other than the fact that Thunder are winning, which we will get into, and they won again this evening. We are recording this late Wednesday night. So most likely, those of you listening to this are probably going to get your first chance to listen to it Thursday morning because I had stuff going at church, walked in and took care of a few things, and my brother's been kind enough to stay up super late Eastern time to make this thing happen. So we're going to dive straight into it. Um, Overall, let's just like we always do. Let's go backwards first. What was
Mhm.
your kind of overall thoughts on the Missouri game?
Man, what a game to watch, I guess. I don't even know where to start, man. It just feels like I don't know, we kind of talked about it. I just don't know what the coaching staff, and maybe it was Seth Luttrell, maybe it wasn't. There was some very weird decisions made by Joe John Finley, like the weird Bauer Sharp, whatever that was play that
Yeah.
everybody's highlighting, which I get why it makes no sense. But also, it's like we've been told Xavier Robinson is going to for sure get a red shirt,
Yeah.
and yet
Yeah.
he looked like the best back on the field on Saturday.
Yeah.
Um, you know, Dion, like honestly, Dion Burks and Farouk both look like they weren't quite ready to go, in my opinion. Like I feel like, I mean, I
Yeah.
guess maybe it was just a little bit of rust, but it just felt like they both were just not themselves. Which I mean, I guess to be expected,
Oh,
but
yeah.
more maybe more than I expected. I guess you know what I mean. Like that
Sure.
level of unready was a little higher. Um, the offensive line just looked horrendous. It's I don't know. There's lots of bad to talk about. Now, the one thing that I'll say, I guess I'll give my positives before I really dig into the negatives some more. As much as everybody's dragging Jackson or Jackson Arnold, and I agree he didn't have a great game overall, but it's like I still think he's your best option at quarterback. I actually thought that I mean, some people are ridiculing. I mean, the play at the end of the game sucks, right? You should
Yeah.
that can't happen, sort of thing. But it's like some of the stuff that happened in that game is really kind of not his fault. Like, the Dion Burks losing the ball. And, I mean, like there's just things that happen throughout that game where it's like he's making the play and he's putting the ball where it should be. And it's somebody else is messing that up.
Hmm.
And the offensive line played terrible. So he was scrambling for his life a lot of the game. And he was having to, I mean, there was not a lot to work with there. So I think as much as I think overall he didn't have a great game. I think he had a good enough game to win you the game, ironically.
Yeah.
Um, I thought Xavier Robinson shined when he got to play. I think when he's got to play, he's looked really good. Do I think
Hmm.
A healthy Barnes is probably higher than him? Sure. I
Sure.
would
Yeah.
definitely not. Tatum, again, we see the same things with Tatum. I think Tatum's got a lot. I think Tatum in his career he's going to be really, really good.
Yeah.
Um, he still, the little caveat to the negative is he still has times where he doesn't look like he knows where he's supposed to be. I think he's getting better at that, but he just, again, I understand he's a freshman, but to be 10 games into the season and still feel like you see a guy that's looking around like, what am I supposed to do? Pretty concerning. Regardless of if you're a freshman or not. I don't know. Yeah, I mean, the defense played really well for a lot of the game. They got to do some things. I mean, again, we kind of talked about the secondary is, I think, the weak link.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I thought the front, I thought the defensive line again played stellar.
Mm-hmm.
I thought even the linebackers played really, really well for the most part. There was a couple of times that they had some busted coverage, but overall, I thought they played really well. Um, but the secondary really just kind of I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's a Brent Venables defense thing or I guess Zach Alley or what's going on there, but it just feels like it's kind of becoming more of a pattern where they have these points in games where it's like it just unravels for them.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, I mean the front. I mean there was times that you rushed four and you were whipping Missouri's
Yeah.
offensive line.
Yeah.
I mean, as much as Caden Green wants to get up there and flip off OU fans and talk trash, and he won, so he, whatever. He got his butt whooped a lot that night. If you watch, he even spent a lot of his time on his back. I mean,
Yeah.
there was a couple of times that he got mauled. Um, so I think that's a good sign. But I mean, the problem is that you got a lot of those guys that are getting that they're more upperclassmen that probably aren't going to be around next year. But David Stone got in there a little bit, and David Stone made some plays,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
so I do think there's some good to glean. But I'll be honest with you, Sooner Nation, I don't see how you're bowl eligible. I
No.
don't know how you go in and beat an Alabama team or an LSU team, especially LSU at probably at night. I don't know if they've announced the time. Have they announced the time of that game? I think they did.
LSU? No, just the Bama game. Bama game's prime time in the
Prime time,
evening.
yeah. Like, okay. The yeah, I don't see you winning either of those games right now. I mean, Alabama looked really good Saturday.
Yeah.
So anyway, I don't know. I mean, that's my positive, I guess, to some degree.
Yeah.
The negative is just I could go on. So I guess my positive is Jackson Arnold, the defensive line, and Xavier Robinson. I please Xavier Robinson stay around, and please somebody figure out how to get him on the field because I
Yeah.
think I'm a big fan of his, and I don't understand why he's being managed the way he is.
Right. Right. Um, all right, let me start with the one that it feels like not everybody's sorry. That's overstating it by a long stretch, but I have seen other podcasts have long conversations about, and sports talk radio locally has talked a lot about. It's time to go away from Jackson Arnold again. Now, I completely disagree. Number one, what did you see out of Michael Hawkins? And like as a starter, other than a 50-yard run, that was amazing. Outside of that, what's he done? Like the Texas game was a guy that, yeah, he didn't turn the ball over, but he looked terrified to throw the ball. Is that fair to say? And then
Yeah,
South
I mean,
Carolina came out trying to throw the ball and put us down 21 nothing in 2.5 minutes. Right? Like, what am I missing? Like, yes, did Jackson Arnold fumble in the Tennessee game? He sure did, running that same QB power play. But is he fumbling because he's carrying the ball out in one hand? Or is he carrying it with two hands over the ball? And unfortunately, like in the Tennessee game, I would say it was a really weak fumble. He kind of just got up in the trash and lost it. The other night, guess what? The guy did a great punch, got right on the football as he's going down, and it came out. Kudos to him. Like, at what point can we give another team credit?
well,
Right? Because, like, you were talking about the secondary. I agree. Are they the weak link? Yes. The Eli Bowen touchdown when he's in coverage on Theo Weiss. Way to go, Theo Weiss. And hey, Drew Pine. Perfect throw. Like, you know what? That has nothing to do with Eli Bowen being in a bad position. It has nothing to do with Eli Bowen not doing his job. It just had to do with Drew Pine and Theo Weiss made a better play. Period. Period. Now Jacoby Johnson, the Luther Burden one, it'd be nice if you knew how to not trip over your own feet because that's what gives that play up. If he doesn't trip over his own feet, it's probably an interception, right? So I mean, there's some plays in there, but overall, I mean, the first half you held Missouri to 89 yards of offense. 89. Okay, so look, Jackson Arnold took a step backwards. Now, let me ask you this question. And if you're listening to this podcast, answer this honestly. Two questions. Question one: did we not say coming into this year that Jackson Arnold would have ups and downs?
Yes.
Okay. Did we not say before this season that Auburn was a game that we most likely would lose because it'd be Jackson Arnold's first game on the road?
Yes.
Third question: Gabe Eicher, Ted Lehman, Parker Thune, all the people that got to go to the Ole Miss game, Eddie Radosevich, who of them said that it was an intimidating environment at Ole Miss?
Well,
None
I
of
mean,
them.
all of them. None of
None of
them.
them.
Yeah.
They said the environment was weak. They're like cool stadium, I guess. The Grove was cool, but remember it was an 11 a.m. kickoff,
Yeah.
right?
Which I didn't
So
realize that the capacity of that stadium is only like 60,000.
right. So they all said while it was fun, that stadium didn't like overwhelm them from a atmosphere standpoint, right? So can we go ahead and say that Missouri was maybe like at Jackson Arnold's first true road game environment because those Missouri fans wanted that one.
Well, yeah.
Okay? So
Well,
when you put
and everybody,
and remember Jackson didn't play at Auburn. Michael Hawkins did.
well, and remember, and everybody's shaming him for that last play of the game, which I always hate that because I'm like, it's the same thing. If you miss the 3-pointer at the end of the game, at the end of a basketball game, it's
Yeah.
like it really is all the other threes you miss too. Like they're the same points. You know what
Right.
I mean? Like it's that kind of when you really logically think about it, But it's like that play, it's like he's getting rushed within like 2 seconds. I mean, less than 2 seconds. I mean, he literally I don't even remember. I forget who it was, but I was like, pretty much half of that offensive line would have been better if they just laid on their stomachs. I mean, at least at that point they have a chance of tripping them. You know what
I
I mean?
I will say this. I thought the line played better than I anticipated them to play. Now, I'm not saying they played good, but there were some clean pockets, right? Like there were some opportunities. But now, okay, so again, process what this guy's going through. Okay? If if you knew that Spencer Brown was going to be your starting right tackle against Missouri, who is a decent defense, especially when it comes to pressuring the quarterback, who's trusting that? Like
Right,
us as fans, we're clamoring for, I really hope Tarquin can play so that Spencer Brown doesn't play.
right.
Do you think that Jackson Arnold doesn't feel he's the one taking the shots? Now you add on to that, number two, this is the other thing that makes me so mad. Well, they showed that one play on TV where Burks came open and Jackson didn't see him. Yeah, but if you go play by play, there is probably about 10% of our pass plays where receivers are actually open. So 90% of the time, Jackson Arnold is looking up for somebody and they have not created a window for him to throw to. What do you want? Like when you score it all
Well,
up, the offensive line's not good. It's his first true road environment, hostile road environment, and his receivers are not getting open. What you wonder why his numbers are low? Oh, and by the way, this is what his sixth game, seventh game as a starter.
well, and I mean, and look, the here's my biggest complaint right now with where the offense is too overall, and this is something that people aren't talking about enough. We're not scheming anybody open.
Let's go, 100%.
Like, like it's literally I want Deion Burks to go out there and outmaneuver his guy just to shake him out of his boots and get open.
Yeah.
Like that's kind of what you're relying on. You're relying on athleticism, and the problem is we don't have that right now.
Well, and like little thing, like People say this all the time. Like last year, OU's defense had more motion used against it than any defense in the nation, right? That was like one of those weird stats they keep. We never use it. The only times we use it is to do that stupid little loop around lasso Burks motion where we're
Right.
going to just throw it to him in the flat, or we motion a running back into the backfield. Like motion helps you know if you're dealing with man to man or you're dealing with zone. It
Yep.
helps you know. Like, and I go back to the Tennessee game when you were still in reach within that game, right? Then there's still a point where you can maybe get back in it. There was a play at one point where I don't know how and what happened, but they slid a safety over, right? They brought a safety down. There was a massive, the largest void on planet Earth on the right, the kind of the right side middle. Nobody runs to that space. Like there's a scheming people open that we don't do, and there's just a football IQ on offense where that's where a Dion Burks, which he wasn't playing at the moment, or whoever looks over to Jackson and goes, "You see that, right? Like you and I see that, right? Like it's no different
Well,
than getting up the line and looking out and going, no one's covering Bob. I'm going to throw Bob the ball right now because nobody's covering him."
and we don't even like we don't do there's no creativity is the problem. And like I guess maybe, I guess that we should have called that out in previous games, but it's like you don't have those situations where you have Dion Burks. Like as much as people don't want to hear this, as much as I am not a fan of the guy and I hate his guts, Lincoln Riley would put it in a position where you had CD Lamb or somebody getting covered by a freaking linebacker or something wild
Yep.
because you schemed your formation in a way that the defense didn't know what to do.
Right.
And right now, it's like every time I go out there, DM Barks is covered by their best corner.
Yeah.
Or not only that, it's like we know he's going to be there, and we know we're going to have a corner on him, and we're going to have a safety over the top because he's their best receiver.
Yep.
Like there is none of that scheming where it's like you're not making the defensive players make tough choices, right?
Right.
You're not having those crossing patterns. You're not having a creativity thing where you have like a tight end motion out and then or in and then back out and then the receiver cuts across there, so you have to have a corner or safety or linebacker, whoever it is, make a decision. I've got to go out to the flat or I've got to cover the guy inside or what am I doing? You
Mm-hmm.
don't do any of that.
Right.
And like that's the problem with this. And like maybe that works. Maybe that if you have a team of athletically of five Dion Burks out wide, maybe you make that work. I don't know. That's how Bryles did it because he just had track athletes basically catching the ball.
Yep.
But you don't have that on this team, and you don't have that creativity, and there's no scheming open. There's no creativity.
And there's no build. There's no building, right? Like, for instance, as much as people hated back in the day when Josh Heupel would run all the bubble screens that he ran, they always, always had a play in there somewhere where if they were hitting the bubble a lot, then they would fake that bubble with the pump fake, and the guy that's been blocking that DB all night goes and sets the block up and then streaks down the field. And that's the building of that play. We're going to keep running this bubble, not because it's just tearing them apart, but because it's going to set up this play for us later on. Now, granted, we're going 3 and out a lot, so that makes it hard to build on plays. But you can do that, right? I mean, again, we talk about this all the time. Lincoln Riley would run that counter run play all the time because then he would set up basically a play action where they're going to make it look like that counter play, and now we're going to hit, what they're calling an RPO. Really, it was play action for Lincoln, right? There were times where it was RPO, but they were really just trying to do a play action deal where they could hit that play, and we don't have any of that. I do want to move on to this because we're kind of bogging down in that, but I agree with you. The offense has no. I mean, Gabe Eichert says it. How can we not scheme a guy open 3 to 5 times a game? Like that should be able to happen. Okay. How about this though? You mentioned this earlier. We don't see it on defense. This is This is the third year, though. I don't I don't know if this is the right word, but mismanage is the only word I can come up with for the offensive pieces that you have. Jared, who do you think Jackson Arnold, when it comes to wide receivers right now, who do you think he trusts the most in the last 2 weeks that he's been a starter?
Oh, the last 2 weeks, Brendan Thompson, maybe. I don't know. I mean, just
How about Jacob Jordan?
or Jacob Jordan. Yeah, Jacob Jordan. Yeah,
You know when he played his first snap of the game?
probably like third quarter.
Third quarter. Third quarter. Third quarter, the guy that has been your leading receiver since Jackson Arnold's returned, the one guy that actually does get open. And by the way, on his first play of the game, want to know what he did? Got open. Now, did he drop the ball? Yes. And that sucks. But he's the only guy that got open at his first opportunity. Because again, no one was getting open. Go watch the replays. There's a DB with every receiver. And that's the other thing. Dang it, I totally forgot to bring it with me. Let me see if I can find it real quick. Go ahead and go on your next rant. But like you talked about Xavier Robinson. Okay. And I'm going to keep coming back to this name, and everybody in Discord that listens to our pod is going to go, maybe it's because he's just not any good. Well, guess what? If I had told you 2 weeks ago that Xavier Robinson should be starting, you'd all be going, dude, we know that you like Xavier Robinson, but it's pretty obvious that he's not any good because he's so far down the depth chart. What are we thinking now? Now all of a sudden everybody wants Xavier Robinson to be the starting running back next week if Barnes isn't there because it's a mismanagement of your talent. And
Well,
where's Caleb Hicks? Like you said, Tatum can't block. He can't hang on to the football. Now, Jackson Arnold needs to just hit the transfer portal because he fumbles too much. But Taylor Tatum, we all want to stay on the field. We all want to keep Taylor Tatum around. He doesn't know the plays, he doesn't know how to block, and he doesn't know how to hang on to the football. And you're telling me that Caleb Hicks is good for 2 carries this season? Two.
well, and look, and I'm a big Caleb Hicks fan, right? I like Caleb Hicks, but like, here's the thing: you have these sorts of things. I mean, Ivan Carry on. Why is he like again? Like Jacob Jordan. Like, I mean, across the board, and that's the thing is it's not. This is where I put my tinfoil hat on, right? Across the board, it isn't you can't just look and say, oh well, the running back rotation is really weird, so it's DeMarco. No, the receiving rotation is weird.
Yeah.
The offensive line rotation is weird. Like every position group, the tight end, like why, like even at tight end, like it feels like don't get me wrong, like I understand Bauer Sharp when it's like if you give him the ball in space as far as a tight end, he's pretty good. If he
Right.
catches it and he can hold on to it, the dude's pretty good. But he can't block. He's not the best catcher. It doesn't look like. Like why is somebody else not getting a little bit more run? Right? Like, and why are we putting him in positions where he's having to block when we know he can't freaking block? Like, why is he in packages that his whole role in that package is to block when he can't freaking block?
Or even
Like,
like
there's no way.
when we have run like bubble screens, they're letting Brennan Thompson be the lead blocker.
Yeah,
Like who does that? Like who
yeah,
would use the 5'9", 175-pound guy to block?
and,
Like,
and like that's the biggest thing to me is like again, the offense it just feels mismanaged, like from top to bottom. So I can't, and it's hard for me to believe logically. Like this is where my tinfoil hat comes on, and I'm like, and this is really where I'm going to go off on a tangent a little bit, but the only person that I can really highlight is BV. Like, is BV involved in that? And for some reason, he's got his fingers in all these rotations for whatever reason that is, because that's the only person that's more logically sound to me than saying, well, Bill Beanbo doesn't know how to rotate people. All of a sudden, DeMarco doesn't know how to. Emmett Jones doesn't know how to. And like, we just know none of our offensive position coaches know how to rotate anybody. Or is it the one guy? Is it four or five guys or is it one guy? Right. And this is what I told. I was talking to my boy Scotty. about this earlier, and I told him, I said, we were talking about it. He said, dude, like, he was like, are we going to have two Oklahoma coaches? I was like, they're not going to fire BV. They've already said they're not. They've voted confidence and all that sort of stuff. But I said, BV's career at OU is going to be heavily defined by this offseason
Mm-hmm.
because he's got to get somebody in, and he's got to get somebody in that's going to be willing to say, Brent, I need control.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
need I need to be able to make decisions of what I want to make. I need to recruit the guys that I want to recruit. I need to be able to have my hands on the offense. And if I say that Caleb Hicks needs to play or Xavier Robinson needs to play, by God, they need to play.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I mean, I don't know. I don't understand it. Maybe there's something behind the scenes we don't know, but it's like I can't even then it's like, okay, so do we have 12 guys that are problems in the locker room? Is that because that's not a good thing either?
No.
Like what factor is making it so Xavier Robinson is just now getting carries? Because right now across the whole year, I know it's a small sample size. Barnes um and Xavier Robinson are the two best running backs I've seen. Everybody wants to say Franklin, and Franklin's had some good plays, but again, I this one
Yeah.
drives me up a wall.
I think
This one
Tatum,
drives
I think
me
people more talk about Tatum than they do Franklin.
or Tatum, sorry. But even Franklin, like people were so high on Franklin. I go, the play that he got 40 of his 50 yards in that game, which it was Tulane, I think. I don't remember who it was. The defensive end gave up on the play. Literally just not even trying.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the only reason he busted the play. If that player even makes half an effort, it's probably a 5 yard gain at best.
Right.
Like go back and watch that play. Go watch his it was like a 40-yard play. That's what caused it. So anyway, and Tatum is the same is this in the same boat. Like I Tatum, I like I said, I think Tatum has the potential to be an All-American if he can learn a playbook and he can learn to hold on to the ball. If he does those two things
And
as
block.
physically
He's gonna
and
have to learn how
physically,
to block.
no, absolutely. But I think physically he's gifted enough to be like he's All-American levels of physically talented.
Yeah, his vision's great. His cutting is great. Like when he has a guy he can make the first guy miss. I mean, nobody can deny those things. But again, it's like, does that make up for constantly fumbling the football? Does that make up for constantly not knowing what play you're supposed to be doing? Does that make up for if he's on the field, everyone in their whole family knows he can't block? Like if that's the case, then I think you have better options. Like if you want to talk about redshirting someone, you redshirt the person who can't do those things so that they have time to work on those things. Xavier Robin, and by the way, who said before the season, this line ain't going to be any good? I did. And I also said the X one, a guy that's going to surprise everybody is Xavier Robinson because the dude moves way better than anybody gives him credit for. And I said, at his size, he can at least get you positive yardage when this offensive line is struggling. And guess what he's done? Just that. He has done just that. Like, how do you not know that your 225-pound running back can actually turn you out some yards when you need them and the line is struggling? Like, that doesn't take rocket science. Now, he may not break one for 85 yards, but he can do that. Now, here's another thing that I want to talk about, two more things before we move on. I want you to tell me where you think this offense is ranked. Okay, I'm going to read you some points, and I want you to tell me where you think this offense is ranked nationally. Okay, this is conference play. Conference play. 25 points, 14 points, 23 points, 24 points, 28 points, 33 points.
Do you want to be in the conference or nationally?
Nationally.
130th.
That is your number 8 total offense, which is more yards, right, than it is the other. That's
Oh, okay, sorry.
Tennessee. That's
Okay,
Tennessee.
sorry. I thought you were. Yeah, okay. Go ahead. Okay.
But I was shocked because I would say right now, if you talk to the casual college football fan, Tennessee is this offense that's just giving people problems, right? 25 points, 14 points, 23 points, 24 points, 28 points, And last week they exploded for 33 points. They have been in the 30s once. Once since they've been in conference play. Now, the reason I bring that up, what offense does Tennessee run?
Some similar to us.
And if you go down the list, them, Mississippi State, which I know is not talented, TCU, those are the three other schools I could find. Dude, I think everybody's figured out the Art Briles offense. So as we start looking ahead to the next OC, I am hoping that we do not run this offense because I don't think it's effective. And I've said this, I said this when Levy got hired. My number one thing that I don't like about the offense is simple is good. All right, there's a level to which simplicity helps.
Right.
Where simplicity does not help is when your wide receivers run slant, out, or go. As a DB, when you watch tape and go, it's a slant, it's a go ball, or it's an out route. Now they run more than that, okay? To be clear for everybody that's going to go, well, I've seen them run both. Okay, but they consistently run about 3 to 4 routes. The route tree is about this big in this offense because Art Briles went to Baylor where he didn't have a ton, and he got the fastest people in the country to come play wide receiver. He got them on those super wide splits, and depending on the alignment, it was pretty much go ball, out, or slant. I mean, they just kept it simple, right? But guess what? People started to catch up. And when you're playing the level of talent that you have in the SEC, and as a defensive back, all I've got to do is know here's what I'm looking for these three routes. It's pretty
Well,
easy to play defensive back.
and the problem is it's all predicated on you having the fastest, most athletic guys out there,
Mm-hmm.
and you don't have that. Like as soon
Nope.
as you like OU doesn't have that as much as we would like to say we have. You have. I think what's funny is I think you have talented receivers, but you don't have a whole stack of
Well, they're
four
not
three
healthy,
guys.
right? I mean, you're missing
Well,
all those guys because they're like
Brennan
Andrew
Brennan
Brennan. Yep.
Brennan Thompson is probably your one like deep threat as far as can just blow you out of your shoes because of his speed.
Right.
But he's also 5'9". That
Yep.
was the other thing. Our Browns had guys that were somehow 6'3" and 6'4" and still ran 4.3 40s.
Well, when you
But
only have one on the field, then your safeties get to play over the top. When you have three of them on the field, you've got to account for three of them.
yeah, and I mean, and here's the thing: like we've talked about this, and I like it's one of those things of we Joe John definitely like he I think he fell into the same old traps. I don't know, like he there was times that he got pass happy. There was times that I like that's the part that I think is baffling to me. And this is where I have a really like I think the problems we're seeing are larger than Seth Luttrell, maybe. Even maybe it started with Levy. I don't know, but it's like guys don't know how to count who's in the box. Like
Yeah.
I can distinctly remember that there was one play where you're lined up, and I don't remember. I think it was Xavier Robinson's in the backfield with Jackson Arnold, and like like this is the thing. I honestly don't think they're clearly not letting Jackson Arnold make his own audibles because I remember they line up and Missouri I think only had 5 guys in the box, which just like Gabe, 5 guys in the box, you run the dang ball.
Yep.
You put hat on hat and you run the ball, and if you don't get yardage, then you got big problems,
Yep.
right? They did that, and I remember looking at Jackson Arnold's like looking to the sideline to see if they're going to audible, and is wanting to audible and they don't. And like you could tell that he was kind of like, I mean, you could see his body language kind of being like he wanted to run the ball,
Mm-hmm.
and then they run a pass play. And of course, what are you going to do? You got 6 guys in coverage or whatever. You're not gonna do anything, especially with an offensive line that's as terrible as ours is half the time. So, or most of the time. So, I like it's things like that that also baffle me because it's like those are just like you said, football IQ plays, and that comes back to the coaching staff. You're sitting up in the booth. I'm watching it on TV, and I know I'm an armchair freaking coach. But it's like I'm sitting here looking and I'm going, dude, there's five guys in the box. You better just run it up the gut for all I care, even if that's the
Yep.
weak part of your line. When you got 5 on 5,
Yep.
run the freaking ball.
Yep.
Um, so anyways, things like that are not jiving. In the offensive side of the ball, like I said, the defense did what it needed to do to win the game.
Yep. 100%.
So anyway,
100%. 100%. But yeah, I mean, we've seen a mismanagement of talent. I think we both agree on that. It does not make sense what's happening on the offensive side of the ball. Again, Jacquez Petaway, where are you? As depleted as we are, where are you? We got nobody that can get open. We got nobody that can run with speed. Where are you? We've talked about the offense. I just don't love the Browns offense. I'm sorry. I don't think it's great. And then not only that, um, I do think there's a BV conversation to have, and you mentioned it. We saw these awkward rotations on offense the first year under Levy. We saw them the second year under Levy, and we're continuing to see them now with both Seth Luttrell and with Joe John Finley. The common denominator is BV, right? I mean, we even have had, technically, we've had three wide receiver coaches since BV's been here. Because we had Kale, then we went to Damian Washington, and then we hired Emmett. So I don't know if he's micromanaging or meddling too much. I don't know. I
well,
really don't know. But it does not make sense. And I also do agree, and I felt like you could really seen it the last couple weeks. Even guys like Danny Stutzman looked tired in the second half. And it grows as the season goes along. I do think you have to have the conversation of, does BV know how to manage the bodies of his athletes through a season? Because it's been pretty evident that they have worn down badly. Like year one, remember, like even like players were saying, yeah, they gave us, like, we wore them down. Cale Gundy talked about it. Our guys were worn out. They were
right.
pushed too far, too hard, and their bodies could not recover. And we're starting to see it again. I think that's one of the reasons you can see our defense in the first half hold a team like Missouri to 89 yards and then give up crazy amounts of yards the second half because they're tired. Even with the depth, they're tired. Their bodies are beat up. And I
Well,
and I talked about this. Seth Luttrell even said that in multiple post-game press conferences when they kept asking about injuries. Like, look, we went through a hard fall camp. And he was like putting a big emphasis on, and I'm talking it was hard. Like, that sounds like an assistant coach going, my guys were beat up and I was saying we need to back off and you wouldn't back off.
and part of me is like, is it one of those things where BV's been a defensive coach so long he has no patience for offense?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like and like part of me, like this season I kind of get it. Like in the sense of your defense is really stinking good and your offense is what's losing you games.
Mhm.
Um so I understand that, but it's like you're kind of becoming your own worst enemy. You're making it a cyclical thing because if you're doing all this and that's leading to them, not being able to put who they want on the field or not being able to manage, like you said, reps and all those sorts of things, that makes an offensive coach's job extremely hard. Now I do think, and this is again, this is why I say BV's offseason, this offseason is going to be BV's defining moment of his career at OU.
Mhm.
He's got to make a tough choice because the Seth Luttrell hire obviously was terrible. Even after this last game, it's like it's clear. Even as much as we want to shame this offense, the offense I saw Saturday looked a lot better than I did those 4 or 5 games in between or
Yeah.
whatever when Seth
Yeah.
Luttrell was offensive coordinator.
Yep.
But he's got to go out and hire somebody, like you said, and it's got to be if he goes and hires whoever. I don't know who's on the short list, right? But let's say he hires somebody and they say, I want to clean house, and you got to let him clean house. I hate to say that. Like, I actually still like DeMarco Murray, and I still like Emmett Jones. I think Emmett Jones is a killer, especially when it comes to recruiting.
Mhm.
Um, but I mean, there's got to, it's coming down to the nut cutting, basically, is where we're at.
Yeah.
Like it's going to get to the point where you have to make a decision, you have to make a home run hire, and you have to see improvement on the offense.
Yeah.
Um, and even talking about it, like Bill Bedenbaugh, it's like I'm with you. I've been a defender, I guess, somewhat of Bill Bedenbaugh, but I'm also sitting here like, dude, he has to figure out how to handle the portal. He has to figure out how to get guys in there, and he also, like, again, we talked about this. I don't understand. It's the same thing with Bill Bedenbaugh. Here's a little bit of evidence I'll give to defend Bill Bedenbaugh's legacy, so to speak. In like 2016 and 17, when he was the offensive, or he was the offensive line coach, he was putting guys out there that struggled, but you could tell had a mean streak. Like when Drew Samia started, Drew Samia was not great.
Yeah.
Right, just to highlight somebody, Orlando Brown or whoever you want to pick off that amazing offensive line that OU had. When he first started playing them, they weren't great, but they had a mean streak and they would go knock people on their butt. And when I look at this offensive line now, I don't see that in anybody except maybe EPL. I
Mm-hmm.
think there's a couple. Okay, I'll say, I think Tarquin does, but I think he's limited. But I think he
Right.
does have a little bit of that.
Right.
Sexton, I think, does. Um, and then EPL. Why have we not seen more EPL? I
Yeah.
understand that he's young, and I understand that there's some things that he may be struggling with or whatever from a schematic point. But it's like he was the first guy. I don't remember what game that was. Maybe it wasn't Missouri, but
No,
maybe it was in
it
Maine or
was a
somebody. But it's
Maine.
like,
It was absolutely Maine.
yeah, it was Maine. But it's like I don't care that it's Maine. When you take a dude and you launch him, like knock him back, that's what I want to see. I don't care how big of a human you are. I don't care how small the other person is. If I can take somebody and knock them 3 yards onto their butt, I want to see that because nobody else on that offensive line was doing it.
No, Gabe Ikard said it was the most knockdowns by an offensive lineman the entire season,
Yeah, I mean,
including that game. So your starters did not have as many knockdown blocks as EPL did in the game.
I'm gonna say I've toot my horn a little bit because we're all in the negatives, but Kip Lewis was somebody that I was high on, and I think that stock's paid off, right?
Mm-hmm.
And EPL is another guy that I've been high on, and I'm telling you, while he has not played this year and it hasn't paid dividends yet, if he stays at OU and they can develop him the way I think they can, I think EPL's like a first round draft pick.
Yeah.
I think he's that good, but why are we managing him the way we're managing him? Again, this is one of those things where it's if you look at Bill Bedenbaugh's career, it doesn't match. The
Mm-hmm.
last 3 years does not match what Bill Bedenbaugh would want to do, and that's how it feels. Like I said, that's what I think he's going to have to. I think he's been in that position when he first came in. He obviously was filling that role of being head coach slash defensive coordinator, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so he had his hands in that. Now he brought in Zach Alley, and from what I've seen and what I understand, it looks like Zach Alley is running that defense. So is BV that guy that's like, I got to have my hands on the wheel. I got to control things. I can't just be the CEO. I got to be boots on the ground. So he's meddling in the offense more and more. And maybe that's
Yeah.
why it's so bad. I don't know because I can't wrap my head around it. But anyway, I'm on a tangent, but I just think that he's got to figure something out. And I want to see at this point in the season, it's like you're playing for a bowl eligibility, but it's like, dude, put EPL out there. I don't care.
Mm-hmm.
Start him for all I care. Like
Well, well, and
you've got to do something.
that's why I'm so frustrated with all the let's bench Jackson Arnold. Look, at this point, I don't care who you throw out there. The chance of you beating Bama or LSU is next to nothing. So you're going to have to make a decision at this point. And I think the decision is, and we said it 2 weeks in a row, Jackson Arnold looked better, and his talent for throwing the football was head and shoulders above Michael Hawkins.
Yep.
Give him every rep you can give him, and you're just going to have to hope that
Well,
the bad offensive line doesn't break him, but that he gets to see with his eyes what the defense is doing, how they're moving, how they're aligning in real time, and it pays dividends for you next year. That's that's what you're going to have to do. And
well, it,
changing your quarterback back and forth is not going to do. Look, Michael Hawkins did not come into this year with some promise of being the starting quarterback. Now, with the way that it's gone, could he leave? Sure. But he's an OU legacy. And all his dad tweets about is how he's built different and he's here to compete.
Okay,
So if that's
and
the case, he ain't going anywhere. Leave Jackson Arnold in and let him try to find his way. But again, if you're going to watch the tape honestly, if there aren't open wide receivers, there's nothing he can do.
well, and the other the other side of that is he's only had a QB coach for what, 3 weeks now?
Right.
Because Seth
Right.
Littrell never coached QBs. Like and it's pretty evident. Like I will give this to
Yeah.
Jackson Arnold, even though again last game maybe he took a step back. I still would say he looks infinitely better now than he did before.
Yeah.
Um, and even then, like it's like you can tell that there's certain plays. There was even plays in this game where you could tell that he would make a quick decision because he knew what he was supposed to do. Where
Hmm.
before he had that hesitation, and you don't want that in a quarter. Like that's a killer in quarterbacks. If you have a hesitation, especially when you're trying to throw slant routes or you're doing RPO or whatever, you're done. You're done.
Yeah.
And if he wasn't coached by a QB coach, he's going to have that.
Yeah.
So, I think that you have to take that into account, but I also think that you have to look at things from the standpoint of Jackson Arnold, like you said, has the best arm talent. Um, even like I said, even the play that everybody like it drives me up a wall. Everybody keeps. I see tweets all over the place. I see people posting about the last play of the game, and it's like, dude, he literally snaps the ball and has somebody in his face. The guy almost got to the him faster than the ball did. And he's running for his life. Like everybody wants to ignore it. They're like, well, what is he doing? It's like he's running because he has no like he's getting chased. And people were like, well, what is he? You got to. And I'm like, what is he supposed to do? I understand that it didn't end up working out, and he fumbled the ball, and it ended up really bad.
Yeah. I
But
mean,
it's like
the
I
reason
just
people are so mad is because he didn't get hit. He just dropped the ball. And that is, I mean, on some levels, it's inexcusable. You got to be better than that. You
sure
do.
no,
But yes, I mean that let's not let that one play, you know,
but again,
define
that
his career.
my point is again like we were talking about earlier. You can't put as much as he was the one that fumbled the ball, and it's not a good play. And like I said, I'm not arguing that the offensive line let somebody through so fast that it's like there was never a chance that he was going to make a play. He might as well have fumbled it because there was nothing else for him to do. You know what I mean? Like it was such a catastrophic play from an offensive line standpoint that I just don't like. To me, it's like I'm not saying it was a good play by him, but I can't just sit there and go, well, it's all his fault that we lost the game,
Yeah,
like people are trying to do.
right.
So anyway, I think we've gone off about that. So I don't know, man. It's
We'll
really
see what
weird to
happens.
be
The
it's
the
really
one
weird being an
oh sorry.
Oklahoma fan because Oklahoma State fans are even in a worse boat than we are somehow. So
Yeah. I don't know about that, but I mean they're definitely well bad off. The only real positive for me, moving forward is it's a bye week. Um and hopefully some guys can get more healthy. Hopefully you can do some more reps and get another step better. The defense continues to be really good. I saw today that SEC podcast. OU is the number one run efficiency defense in the SEC. I mean, the defense is good enough to be winning a lot of football games. And the only reason that you even feel like you have a chance to win the Missouri game is because of the defense. Um, and, you just hope you can find lightning in a bottle once these next 2 weeks. I mean, crazier things have definitely happened. I'm not holding my breath for any of it. And so we'll see. We'll see what comes of it. I think the other thing that has been really good news. So that's all the dark. I think the good. There's a great article Parker Thune put out. Marcus Wimberly, catching up with him about this class. Ryan Foje continues to say things, but I mean, we've always said BV can recruit, and so far, there's not been a mass exodus out of this class. Just like there wasn't his first year when we said, man, this thing is so bad. I don't think anyone, but Wimberly basically said, look, they've recruited great since he's been there, and they are missing the majority of the offensive line, and they're missing almost every wide receiver. We're going to be fine. It's been a bad run of injuries. and they're going to get it right. I mean, he just was completely unwavering. Ryan Foje's been completely unwavering. Again, I think the only guy you're concerned about is Michael Fasusi. But I know that a massive part in his decision making was Bill Bedenbaugh. And I do think that even Bill can look at him and go, look, man, I fouled up in my recruiting for a couple cycles. I didn't want to deal with NIL. And, I think he just needs to be honest with Fasusi about that. Says, I can still develop guys. I got to where I just wanted to develop guys that weren't as talented, and it's coming back to bite us now because talent matters and we need you. And he's going to have to give him some kind of sales pitch along those lines. You still got Kevin Sperry coming in, who, man, I was super high on as a sophomore and as a junior. I feel like this year, I still think he's good. I still think he has some really good talent to him. Is he a guy that like I watch his game and go, dude, he's going to come in here and just take over? No, but you know what? Unlike the Lincoln Riley years, you're going to have potentially three quarterbacks on campus who can sling it, and hopefully you can get one right. I really hope we change offenses in the offseason as well moving forward. And it sounds like they're going after some people that would very much do that, that they would not stay in this Art Briles tree of offense. And I think that's
Well,
what you need to do.
and I think I want to also say because I'm fine with because people might hear that and think, oh, you don't we it's like I don't think anybody wants us to be like a triple option team or something like that.
No.
But the air raid spread, whatever you want to call it, like that tree is so massive now,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like it's like we're all fine staying in like an air raid slash spread type of offense or whatever. I don't know what you want to call that, but I think we're all fine with that. But we need to have something that's more robust, I guess,
Mm-hmm.
that's not going to be that, I mean, again, I've said it. I just think that the talent level isn't the problem. I mean, obviously we have some issues and we have some talent disparities, but it's like I even think against Missouri, I think you're more talented. I know people are going to come at me for that probably. I think you're more talented than Missouri at a lot of positions, even on offense. Maybe not. You don't have anybody like Luther Burden on your team, unfortunately. Thanks, Lincoln Riley. But um, you still have playmakers, and we're just not putting them. Again, it goes back to not putting them in like Jackson Arnold. As far as we talked about that play he made against Maine, I think it was that throw he made.
Yeah.
There's five guys in college football that can make that throw.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, as far as pure arm talent, he's got it. And I know people are going, well, Spencer Rattler has arm talent, and I'm like, I get it, but I think Jackson Arnold's a better overall quarterback than that. So you have a quarterback that has the potential to be one of the best in college football. You just have to give him a chance to succeed, and you've not been doing that.
Yeah. Well, and again, I think that, I mean, again, Lincoln Riley runs a version of the air raid, but he also brings a very much a good run game when he commits to it, and it's schemed up well, and the run game is schemed up in a way to open and to scheme open pass plays. And that's one of the things we can't do. And Lincoln Riley was very good at looking at who he had and adjusting his offense to the skills, right? I mean, Jalen Hurts, how much did we have QB run game in that offense?
Right.
A lot, because that was his skill set and he took advantage of it, right? When Kyler was back there, dude, you want to talk about just ripping the ball down the field all over the place, right? With Baker, he had everything at his disposal.
Hmm.
And then with Caleb, a lot of QB run game and really a lot of off script stuff. But, anyways, so he did those
I mean,
things.
you've got to start scheming guys open. You got to start scheming to get guys, in one-on-one sort of situations, and we're just not doing that right now.
Mm-mm.
So yeah, I mean, a lot of issues on the offensive side of the ball, and I guess if you want, I like I said, I'm not giving us any chance to win the game. I think it may be a tall order for us to score points against Alabama, but um, if you want to have one, you got a bye week, and maybe Jackson Arnold gets a little extra QB coaching.
Yeah.
Maybe you get some guys rest back to closer to 100%. That's the only thing I can give you as a positive.
Yeah. No, absolutely. So. Let's move on to way more positive yet negative news, and that is the Oklahoma City Thunder. Let's get in. Again, we are not basketball guys as much. It's why we have Troy on the podcast because he knows it inside and out. But I can tell you this, the Oklahoma City Thunder win again tonight. I believe the score was 106 to 88. Now, the Pelicans are injured like crazy. This gives them a record of 3-9. They're not a good basketball team. But let's put into perspective. The starting lineup's tallest player yet again tonight was 6 foot 6 inches tall.
Mhm.
That was our tallest player. Jared, how many blocks do you think our team had in the game tonight? With the tallest starter being 6 foot six, or hold on, let me give you a little bit more, so I don't just totally take advantage of you here. You know that Usman Jang is a near 7 footer, right? He played 16 minutes. Kenrich Williams did play tonight, 14 minutes. Let me look at one more. I think there was one more guy. Nope, that is not correct. So those are your two tallest guys that
Six
played
blocks.
tonight. 7 blocks on the
Jeez.
game. 16 steals tonight for the Thunder. The defense just continued to be incredible. And by the way, let me just give you some of these. Jalen Williams, 2 blocks. Shea Gilgis, 2 blocks. Lou Dort, 1 block. Usman, 1 block. Kenrich, 1 block.
Mhm.
Unbelievable. Unbelievable. And tonight, J Dub went nuts. 31 points, 10 of 18 from the field, 4 of 7 from the 3 point line. And Shea was 12 of 25, 3 of 7 from the 3 point line, 2 of 3 at the free throw line. Again, 2 blocks, 2 steals, 5 assists, 5 rebounds. I mean, just unbelievable what this team is doing. And by the way, Isaiah Joe was 0 for 5, and all 5 were 3 point shots tonight. And you still pull off a win of 18 points. That's
Yeah,
just
and I mean,
incredible.
and obviously the elephant in the room, Shed Holmgren is out. What I think 8 to 10 weeks was the last prognosis I
Yeah.
saw.
So probably after All Star break. Before, and that is sometime after All Star break, might be the first time that he can start to get a few minutes
Yeah,
at this point.
yeah, and that's an injury that's yeah. The rehab is I'm sure going to be intense, but um, yeah, I mean, I don't know. The Thunder are good. They're really good. And like I said, it's crazy because um, the one thing that I will give, I really do think like this is the deepest Thunder team we've ever seen. Um, because it's crazy because when Chet went down, not to say that I wasn't like, oh crap, right? Like Chet's an all-star, right?
Right.
But at the same time, I was like, they've got enough talent that I think they can counterbalance that to some degree, right? Like they're not as good without him, but they're not sunk. This isn't Russell Westbrook going down or on those sorts of teams or Kevin Durant or whoever when you had those two. You know what I mean? Like this team is so deep that it's like and they're just defensively they play so hard.
Yeah.
Um
Yeah,
so
I
yeah.
I agree with that except for just the timing of the injury is what had me concerned. Not like if you had iHeart and J Will healthy, yeah, Chet being gone is bad. You're good. Like you can get through this. With iHeart and J Will still out, and literally Usman Jang is the biggest guy on your entire roster, who is not a center and who cannot bang down there like that. He's a forward at best. That's what had me concerned, right? Like, how are you going to be able to do anything defensively and even struggle some offensively because of it? And granted, again, the uh the Pelicans are not great. Last night though, they got a win against the Clippers. I mean, 2 nights ago. That's a huge win with no true center at all, and they still pulled off that win. I mean, this team, man, like They just find a way. They just find a way. They are really good. And again, we keep saying it. Watch out when they get healthy. Watch out when they get healthy. Now, they're going to have to play some teams soon that are probably going to really give them some trouble, right? Like
I
trying to
did see
look
that
ahead.
Wimby, by the way, I don't know if you saw, but Wimby put up like 50 points tonight too in his
Did
game.
he really? You're going to play the Suns, who, by the way, will not have Kevin Durant, so that'll help. But that's going to be a tough one. And then you play the Mavericks. That's going to be really tough. And then guess who we play next Tuesday? The Spurs and Wimby.
Yeah.
If the Spurs will actually run their offense through him, we are going to struggle because we're not going to have anybody. But then you're going to play the Blazers. You can probably get a win there. Kings, you got a chance to get a win there. Warriors, you got a chance to get a win there because they're going to play Draymond as much as anybody who's not a true center either. And so while Steph's been hot as all get out, I feel like your defense has a chance to keep you in that game. And then you're going to play the Lakers. That's going to be a tough one. LeBron and AD will be everything the Thunder can handle in that game because of their size. But that's the thing that makes you scared is just because you don't have those guys. Again, like I've said, with iHeart gone, J Will gone, and Check gone, just be 500. Just be 500 until you can get iHeart back. iHeart will help you take it up to like a 55%, 60%. And then once you get J Will back, I think you can legitimately play in that 60 to 65% win range again. And when Check comes back, you definitely should be at the 65% win range, right? So, um, yeah, I mean, just crazy. But tonight was an incredible effort, incredible game plan. Guys stepping up left and right, just having an incredible game, especially J Dub and Shea kind of carrying things. It's This team is fun to watch, man. They are really fun to watch.
Yeah. It's, yeah, like I said, I've been saying that it's one of the funnest teams to watch in the NBA. And like I said, Sam Presti is the MVP of that organization. Because this team is just, I mean, think about that. We just think about everybody we just highlighted, and
Yeah.
depending on how the rest of the season this goes, they could have two high draft picks.
Yeah. By the way, just to give you an update, one of the picks that we own is the Philadelphia 76ers, who are currently 2-9 on the
Yeah.
season. They are 2-9. The Clippers are 6-6, sitting at the number 10 play-in spot, but a couple more losses and they're down out of the playoffs. By the way, currently the Dallas Mavericks are not in the playoffs or the
They're
play-in.
five. Yeah, they're 5 and 6, aren't they?
That is correct. They are 5-6 on the season, which is wild. Now, last night was crazy. I even looked at the stats in that game. I don't know how Golden State won that game. I
Yeah.
mean, it's just crazy. So, you still got an opportunity, yeah, to get a super high draft pick and a really good draft to add along. And look, we haven't even played Topic,
Yeah.
and we're not going to this year. So, regardless, you get him next year.
Yeah.
And the guy apparently is supposed to be a really good player. We'll see. I don't know, but
I mean,
he's supposed to
that's
be.
the team that he's built is you have that now you have enough equity in things that you have that patience,
Yeah.
right? Like you can say, well, we're gonna let this guy that we just drafted we think is gonna be an all-star or whatever. You can rest him for a year, it's fine.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it's
Yeah.
crazy. So anyway, I'm a hyped season. I mean, it's the Chet news was not good, but like I said, they're still winning, so let's just
Yeah.
enjoy it while we can.
And it was bad news, don't get me wrong. But also, like, let's be very clear. Andrew Schleck talked about this on his podcast, and I have a couple orthopedic buddies here that I asked some questions to as well, and they all confirm what he's saying. Like, this is not an injury that needs surgery. Uh, this is not an injury you can't come back from. So it's not, like a patellar tendon, right? Like
Yeah,
that's one of those that's like, yeah, you can come back, but
you're not
you're
gonna be the
you're
same. Yeah,
you're gonna not gonna be the same. None of that's there. It's literally a how long does it take it to get healed, and at what point does he, excuse me, get past the pain threshold that he can start to do some physical therapy and those, because that's the biggest thing from everything that I have talked to and heard. It is a major pain injury. Like the pain is through the roof, but once you get past that, all should be good. And that's one of the reasons they wait so long is to let it heal completely. And then that way you're not dealing with anything else because it's such a painful injury. So, um, we'll see what comes of it. But yeah, not great news to lose Chet. But again, this team just continues to push ahead and play great basketball. They're going to struggle with rebounding. They're going to struggle on defense, but their defense is still going to create chaos and turnovers and give you a lot of problems. And when offensively they're clicking, they can score with anybody in the league regardless. So it should be pretty crazy stuff. So, but that's what's going on in that one. And by the way, undefeated seasons, and the OU women's basketball team set a school record after they scored 122 points last night. Holy
Yeah,
crap. Uh, by the way, who bought the Jenny Baranchek stock early? Who
you
said
did. You
Hall of
did.
Fame coach? Right here. Just saying. Just saying. Now, I know if Jim Traber's listening to the podcast, he can't go watch women's sports because he thinks it's some kind of travesty. But I'm telling you, if you like sports and you like women involved in them, you need to go watch because you're going to get to say that you got to watch a coach that's going to be a legend in this sport in Jenny Baranchek. She is the real deal. And I also think the OU men's team could be something that is a fringe tournament team and could maybe get around as well. They've looked really good early on also. So um, maybe the spring will be the turning point where we actually get some good sports in Oklahoma. We'll see.
Maybe, yeah.
Um,
Softball team. Yeah, we'll see. We're a softball
well,
school. It's fine.
yeah, yeah, yeah. That's who we are.
Yeah.
That's what we are. So, anyways, anything else on your docket of stuff?
I think Gladiator 2, doesn't it come out this weekend? Is it this weekend that it comes
Holy
out or
crap.
next
I
weekend?
think you might be right. I didn't even think about that. But yeah, it is already November. Jeez, that's crazy.
Yeah,
Um,
I know that comes out. The new did the new Dune series, I think maybe it
series.
starts.
Yeah,
I think maybe
it's
either
it
just started
start.
or Yellowstone's back, which yeah, I can't spoil anything, but yeah, Yellowstone's back. I mean,
Don't
there's a lot of
spoil it.
good
I
TV.
haven't watched. Yeah, I have not watched yet. But oh my gosh, I'm ready for that.
Yeah. So anyway, yeah, like good TV and shows. So we'll be talking about that a little bit more as I'm sure we'll be filling in, as we get out of football season and all that. So
Absolutely, absolutely, and hopefully we can get Troy on here soon. We will do a preview next podcast of the Alabama game. Again, I don't think it'll be a very encouraging one, but we'll still talk it through and see what we can do. And again, look, you just never know in college football. If everything hits right, anybody can beat anybody on any given weekend. And so you forge ahead and see what you can do. The biggest thing right now is 3 weeks till National Signing Day for December. That is everything that we got to hang on for 3 weeks. And if we can keep this class we've got together, I do believe if you get the right hire at OC, the Sooners can really turn it around. For the Thunder, they're still doing great. They get healthy. Watch out. So the future is bright, folks. The future is bright. That's what we're saying. We're selling the sunshine of the future right now, for sure.
yeah, yeah.
So well, that's it for us. Again, please like, subscribe, follow, do all the things. We would greatly appreciate it. Helps us out a lot. We are having a great time. We hope you are too. I'm Daryl. That's Jared. And we will talk to you guys later.
Night Baker.